Welcome to Creative Mornings. So I'm very excited to have so many people here. I hope everyone had the time to get a coffee, to find a chair. At the beginning, I want to say thank you to Design Affairs for having us here, for providing the breakfast, the coffee, the location. And I quickly want to hand over the microphone to Johannes Behrisch, Executive Director here in the studio in Munich, to do a quick introduction.
Thanks a lot. So a really quick introduction. I'd just love to thank all of you to come here, or for coming here. Surely it was no risk for us to host this event because we quite early knew that this would be a sold-out event. So it's always nice to have new people here. But as well as an agency, we're running into some risks from time to time. And right now, we're running into the risk that we might not be able to staff all of our projects because our business is going so well. So I would love to take the opportunity to ask around if there are any talented interaction or interface designers, because we have some vacant positions. So if you want to take the risk of a new challenge, a new opportunity, just feel free to talk to me or check out our website. So currently we're looking for you guys to join our team. Okay, that's it. Have fun.
Thank you. Yeah, and risk, by the way, is our topic for April. So. Please support Creative Mornings in the event by using these hashtags. You see them on the posters printed and pinned on walls here around in the studio. And as I said, the topic is risk, and when we were thinking of brainstorming about how we could draw the line between risk and the chapter in Munich, one of the first things that came in our mind was the Eisbach and Eisbach surfing, because the Eisbach wave is very famous and is one of the world's, I think, most famous spot for river surfing. And it's also known for being risky to surf there. And if you want to surf there, you must be a very experienced surfer. And our speaker for today, Johannes Behrisch, he's a UX designer at Google and is also a passionate surfer. And today he will talk about the relation between risk and river surfing, and how surfing is decision driver for in life. Welcome, Johannes Behrisch.
Thank you. A quick thing, like Google is also looking for a UX researcher. Sorry, I hope Design Affairs saying clearly. But it's a researcher, not a designer. You're looking for designers, right? Sure. Okay. Cool. So thank you all for coming and for this opportunity. So I will be talking about risk in river surfing, as mentioned earlier. And it's really strange because, like for me, it's the first time talking in front of designers or talking in front of a crowd since, I think, 15 years and not talking about design. So that will be really interesting. I hope it's entertaining. So to start with risk and river surfing, I thought, okay, let's see what risk is all about. So I looked at potential definitions of risk. So this is one of them which I found, like the relation of potential negative and positive impacts of an action accounting for severity and likeliness. And I found that a little bit difficult to digest. So I took the freedom to reformulate it a little bit. Saying you take a risk is when you do something despite the chance of a fuck up. And like the higher the chance is and the more severe the fuck up is, the higher the risk is. So how do I relate that to surfing or surfing on the river? It's perhaps best illustrated by telling you the whole story, like how I started and what still keeps me doing it. And I first saw surfing when I was a little kid, like 5 or 6 years of age, and I was fascinated by it. Like it looked so much fun, and I really wanted to do that. But living in Munich, you don't really have a chance to do that. And also, my parents, they always wanted to go to Denmark for summer vacation, which was kind of a bummer because there are no roads. So the only chance I had to do something similar that came close to it was starting to windsurf. And that actually was something that was already super fun, and it sort of brought me to the thing that still keeps me enjoying it and why I still do it. It's might sound a bit simple-minded, but it's really just doing turns. Like, not moving in a straight line is something that I find incredibly nice, and it's like a really fulfilling thing to do. So trying to pursue that, as I said, Munich, there's not that much chance you can to do that. So as soon as I finished school, it's louder. Sorry. After I finished school, I basically took the first plane out of Munich and went to Fuerteventura, and somehow I had to pay for my living. So I was working as a windsurf teacher there, and that was awesome. Like, I could be on the beach every day, and that was also the first time that I actually picked up a proper surfboard without a sail. And found that super nice, and since that time I always wanted to be close to the ocean. But I figured out that I'm a bit too old to pick up surfing as a proper career, and also probably wasn't talented enough. So, and I had this other passion, which was basically drawing and making stuff. And so I decided to make that a career and become a designer. But that brought me back to Munich, which was kind of a bummer because then I was away from the ocean again, so I had to kind of negotiate this tension. And so I had to find a substitute, like something that could keep me alive in the city. And I stumbled across this river surfing thing, and I had heard about it earlier, but I also had heard that like people don't really want you to surf on the ice path, because at that time it was still illegal, and it was a very closed scene. And but I also found another smaller wave, which is close to the zoo, which is called the Floßlände. So I started there, and went there with my surfboard, and that actually already started to come pretty close to the feeling that you have when you're surfing wave on the ocean. But as you can see, it was a bit pitiful. Like, the wave didn't really carry me because I'm quite heavy, and the wave doesn't have that much power. And the other problem is this wave gets worse during the summer. And to explain a bit why, maybe a short overview of how river waves work. Like, this isn't like hydrodynamics. Highly sophisticated explanation, but it's the rough explanation how it works. It's basically fast water hits slow water, and in the case of the Floßlände, this slow water is situated in a deep basin behind the wave, and the fast water doesn't have a chance to go anywhere, so it goes up. And this forms this slope on which you can put your surfboard. It starts sliding down that slope, and so you can start going back and forth. During the course of the summer, the drain of this basin, plants grow in it, and the water level rises, so the speed difference gets less, and the wave gets worse and worse and worse. So after only 3 weeks, I couldn't surf there anymore. Like, the wave just didn't hold me. So I had to find a way out of that. So I took all my courage and got in line with the big bad river. And as I said, at this time, the scene was pretty close still. Like, there were still notorious figures surfing there, like Walter, the Hausmeister, who was a groundskeeper, or Drop-In Fritz, who basically didn't let you surf. He was always running in front of you and throwing his board in. So the chance of a fuck up in that case was like getting into trouble. Like, the social pressure was pretty high, and that ranged from like fierce staring, which was certain to happen, to drop-ins, or people would also go to you and say, "Hey, it's dangerous here, go home or surf somewhere else." Some people even had to pay money to Walter, because he said, "I'm taking care of the wave. You have to, pay the groundskeeper, right?" And some people even got beaten up, but I never actually saw that. But it was certain that it got at least some humiliation. And the other problem is like this obstacle that the fast water hits. It's in the case of the ice, but it's not only deeper water, but it's also rocks. Like, they're cemented in the bottom. So when you fall, like everybody who surfed there has made contact with them. And like, the severity of that ranges from, okay, you're walking in a weird way for a few days, but some people even broke the base of their skull, but they dove in head first, so you shouldn't do that. And the other thing is, like, on the ice path, you're almost certain to break your board. So like, there are a lot of holes in ice path boards who have been surfed for a while. Like this is pretty new still. Like I've only taken it out twice so far, so it's still intact. So it doesn't look like a typical iceboard board. But breaking your board is almost certain. But the wave was so good. Like I stayed there, and like because it had so much power, you could actually do much more radical turns, and it was even more fun. So I got up early most mornings, and yeah, I finally got good enough to also surf during peak times, and got to know the people who surfed there and became friends with them. And so after that went well, I surfed the whole rest of the summer and the autumn and the winter and the next spring again. And while I was living in Munich, I have done that ever since. So basically, I'm not there anymore 7 days a week, but like the first few years were definitely like all the time after uni I went there. And particularly during winter, like the wetsuits in the last years have made quite a good development in regards to their insulation capabilities, but at that time it was always pretty cold, so the chance of you getting sick in winter were also pretty likely. But winter also brought along another problem. It got dark early, so it's quite tricky when you don't see a lot to surf in the dark. So I mean, when you walk by the bridge today, or tonight maybe, you probably will see some people with lights on there, but at that time it wasn't that common, so we actually still had to buy a big generator because LED lights and efficient batteries weren't there yet. So we had to carry this big loud thing with us and had to put the lamps on the bridge, but that actually extended our surfing day throughout the night. And the other cool thing was we were alone, so there was no crowd. And one night, I remember there was it was in winter, and in winter the generators don't start that well, so we couldn't get it to work, and so we surfed anyway. And there was a lady standing on top of the bridge with a big bright flash, and every time she took a picture you didn't see anything anymore and basically fell in. And a few days later I got a call from my mom, and she said, "Hey, you're in the newspaper," and I was super proud until I read the article because it basically said like some super stupid people surf in the middle of the night, in the middle of the winter, but we think it's for a good reason, because the spectators weren't impressed by the performance, because maybe they were just beginners who wanted to be left alone to practice. So the chance of ending up as a funny story on the local news is actually also quite possible. So after having surfed for quite some years on the river, sort of this sense of adventure, like you conquer sort of a new space which you make your own, wears off. So the good thing was at least at that time in Munich, there were several waves. When the big river flooded, the Isar, you had waves almost behind every bridge, and that was pretty awesome, because then when the water level was reaching a certain height, then usually your phone started ringing and was like, "Hey, the Wittelsbacher Brücke is on, let's go." And then he went there and like had a few hours of good fun, and then went home again. But unfortunately, in the course of the restructuring of the Isar, all of these waves disappeared, except for one. But of course, the risk involved with surfing these waves was a bit higher than the Eisbach, because you had driftwood, which we were likely to hit. Upstream is the zoo, and when it rains a lot, all the cages and the stuff that the animals leave there runs out to the river, so the chance of you getting sick and spending the night on the toilet actually was there. Getting hung up with the leash, like on the back of the board you have like this rope which attaches you to the board so you don't lose it. If you get hung up with that, you basically get pulled under and you can't rescue yourself, which is pretty dangerous, but the chances of that happening is actually pretty low. Like I never saw that happening. But you have the chance of being rescued, because when you surf on that big river, very often like concerned spectators call the firefighters or police to rescue you, because basically you can drown. And you of course don't want to pay for this rescue action, so a friend of mine once spent a whole night hiding in the bushes just waiting for the police and firefighters to go away, so the chance of that happening is actually pretty high. But the cool thing is, if you come to that wave, such a wave shortly after such a rescue action, you have it for your own, because everyone is gone. So this was actually last autumn. So this is the only wave which still works. And some friends of mine, they thought, all right, if we have waves on the big river in Munich when there's a flood, probably there are other waves in Europe as well. So they explored rivers in Europe mainly using Google Earth, exploring that for potential spots for riverways, and they actually found quite a few. And so I also went on a trip with them to France, which was pretty exciting because we didn't know anything about the basin of the river. Like in Munich, the Isar, we know that pretty well. Like we used to walk when there was little water in the river. We used to watch all the stones and things like that. So we knew what would happen if we would fall, but this wasn't the case in France. But despite all this exploring and traveling and also finding new waves, as I said earlier, like you always really want to go to the ocean. Like this is really where you want to be as a surfer. And so while I was living in Munich, I mean I live in Munich now again, but at that time, like I always wanted to move away again from move away for some time, like work somewhere near the ocean. And my girlfriend at that time, who's now my wife, unfortunately or fortunately, also had quite a bit of wanderlust. So at one point, I had a job at a design consultancy who would transfer me to Taiwan, and she had applied for a job which would take her to Morocco, where she would be building water wells. But so we thought, no, that doesn't really work out. So we did the only logical thing. Like we ended up going to Australia instead. Like it was a very elaborate decision, but it was a little bit elaborated. Like I mean, she wanted to do a PhD, and I wanted to surf, be somewhere near the beach, and near the place where I could work as a designer. But the risk of sort of taking that move and going to Australia were actually like there were a lot of fuck ups which were possibly happened. Like the chance of me running out of money were almost certain because I had saved a little bit, but I found out that in Sydney you need a lot of money. I had to quit my job here, which was actually an alright job during the peak of the global financial crisis. And so the chance of not finding a job were pretty high because I also knew nobody in Australia and had nothing lined up. And so, I mean, when you're still at the beginning of your career and you don't you have such a big gap in your career as a designer, and particularly when you want to work again in Germany, the chances that you end your career as a designer by such a move are actually, they are not low. And but I also knew that my girlfriend was there to stay in Australia for at least 3 years. So, and if I would have done a fuck up, I would have had to move back probably. So that also wouldn't have helped. But the important thing was we got a house like really close to the beach. It was about 600 meters away. And the surf was really awesome. And like my wife also surfs, so we were in the water almost every morning. And I was super happy. Like it was something that I've been dreaming of basically ever since. And I just couldn't stop smiling during that time. And I don't know if it was because I was also so much outdoors and had a more positive attitude, but it was actually fairly quick that I got to work. But I mean, like another factor also contributed to that, like a thing which I couldn't have known, but Australia was the only country of the Western countries which wasn't hit hard enough by the global financial crisis to actually go into a recession. So the economy was doing much better in Australia than it was doing anywhere in Europe or the US. So I got work, I got one job, I got another job, and actually managed to sustain myself in Australia pretty well. And there was also this other thing that I learned, like I'm still not super great at it, but I learned to really charge an appropriate price for my design work, and also like allocate a finite amount of time to it, because like I love designing, but when you do something that you love as a job, there's always the risk that most of you are designers, I don't have to tell you that, that there's a risk that you put in a lot of extra hours, that you work for free and things like that. But I had this sort of unique chance that I could go surfing in the ocean, and so I had to balance that somehow. And it was not like the river wave here in Munich, where the wave is basically there 24/7. But on the ocean, like you have to wait for the tide to be right. So you really need to be able to take a lot more this rhythm of the ocean a lot more into account. So I think this was something that was really a really important lesson for me to learn. And as my girlfriend had applied for a scholarship and a PhD position, I thought, okay, I might also give that a go, and was lucky enough to also get one, and completed that. And in hindsight, this might have looked like a really clever career move, because without that, I probably wouldn't have been able to qualify for the job at Google I have now. And I really love doing that and working there. And the other problem is my wife, or would have been that my wife, she's having a PhD, and she has a combined degree in economics and engineering. So she is really good at applying for jobs. So I probably would, as we got kids, I probably wouldn't have been able to justify me working with a sort of more or less standard designer salary compared to what she would have made. So in a sense, this even sort of saved my career as a designer with this move, which basically was, hey, I want to go surfing. And also this learning to allocate a finite amount of time to your work, and also charge an appropriate price for the hours I put in my work, also helps me today to have enough time to spend with my little daughter, and also share with her the things I love. Like, unfortunately, she also likes the water. So, so what do I hope that you take away from this talk? In the preparation of this talk, I watched a lot of exemplary talks, and a lot of really excellent talks, which are, I think, way better than the one that I do now. But I sort of had the feeling that there are a few key ideas or few key topics that all of these talks revolve around. Like, all of the talks pick one theme of them, but these themes are shared with other talks as well, and they just deliver a more or less entertaining or inspiring illustration for this theme. So the theme that I hoped to illustrate in an entertaining way and inspiring way is that you should take risks for what makes you happy. Don't take risks for what you think is sensible, but for what makes you happy. Thanks. I also want to thank the people taking pictures, who had taken the pictures, because it's very hard to take photos of yourself while you're surfing.
Thank you very much. I have one question.
Yes?
Did you ever get injured very seriously while surfing on the iceberg?
No. You bruise your. What happens a lot is that you bruise your legs. Like you, I don't know the English term for that, but in German it's called Pferdekuss. Like when you get hit your upper leg really hard with a knee from somebody else, and that's what happens a lot with the rocks.
Yeah.
So, but particularly when you're still when I was a student, and I didn't have a lot of money for buying a new surfboard, or even paying for the stuff that I needed to repair my surfboard, was often like, okay, do I throw myself in between the wall and the board, or do I let the board go into the wall? But I never had a really serious injury there.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience?
Danke.
Hello. In order to take risks with a low chance of fuck up, how do you recommend, especially with the example of surfing, if I want to get started with surfing, if I want to one day be a surfer at the iceberg, what's the first step you recommend me to take to get into that?
Get a board. Shorts help, and just at the Eisbach at the moment, as I said, it's partly because it's made legal. This really closed scene opened up a lot, so the chance that you are sent away or things like that, they're really low. Like, you have to have some basic level of surfing ability to go there. So if you either have surfed on the ocean before, or go to this smaller wave which is near the zoo, or further downstream on the Eisbach, there's also another wave where you can practice. If you practice there for a little bit with with the board. But at these other waves, like particularly the one near the zoo, there the people are so friendly that some of them even lend you their board. That wouldn't happen at the iceberg.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm curious about the job at Google. You told us you did a PhD in order to get started at Google. What was your first project?
No, I didn't do a PhD to start my work at Google. My PhD was about sustainable design, and in the course of that I looked a lot into the logic of design, like how basically the epistemological process that happens while you design something, be it a physical product or a digital product. And like I found that this logic is shared between design disciplines, and that basically the main difference is the design craft that you have, that you apply. But so this deeper understanding of design, this helped me a lot to when I was looking for a job in Munich, and yeah, without that I don't think that I would have. But like at Google, I currently work on internal products, like products that are used by other users.
More questions?
Is there a direct connection for you between your decision to take risks in the Eisbach and to also to serve, and your career, what you maybe do at work, or what you feel like you are able to risk there, or is your surfing and your surfing makes you happy, obviously, and so that was your and that is your passion. But is there in your work also a connection that you could make maybe between what you do during the day, let's say, or what you do when you're in the rest of your time?
Yeah, and there are a lot of connections that you can draw. Like, I mean, one of them being if you work as a designer, particularly in like earlier concepts, you have to move a lot in an uncertain environment, like which you can't frame properly and which is dynamic, which changes constantly and also changes based on the moves that you do. And that's maybe not so much on the river, but on the ocean, when you want to get a wave, when you paddle around in a liner, that's sort of really, really similar. Like, so having the confidence of moving and making a move, this is something that I would say is basically the same state of mind that you have there.
You said before you were younger, you were taking lots of risks and going after waves and so on. What are the chances that you take that amount of risks now that you have a daughter, you have a wife, a stable career, and do you think that changed a lot, or would you just go for a new job at somewhere else just to be close to the beach again, or does it change a lot now that you have everything settled down?
Not so much. I mean, the nice thing about working at Google is that they are all over the world, so I don't really have to risk my job. I can just apply for a transfer. But I'm really happy at the moment in Munich, and also we're expecting a second child, so we will be here at least for another year or two. So, but after that, I definitely would see myself sort of traveling around again and moving somewhere else, like, I don't know, San Francisco, New York, even Sydney maybe, I don't know, but let's see what. But I mean, I still surf on the ocean and still surf also on the open river, and my wife surfs as well, which helps, so she understands. But at the same time, so we also have to always drive and find surfing spots for her as well, which cuts into my time, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Oh, sure.
I really like the graphical representation you did of the risk and of the chance. Was it always that clear for you when you were making the decisions, like when the decision was about to move to Australia with your girlfriend? Did you know all the chances or risks when you were moving, or when you were asking yourself the question? Or is it more like that now in hindsight? You can view back and now you can say the chance of losing my girlfriend is medium, or is it like, did you think that through, like in such a big detail, or did you just go for it?
I mean, like in Germany, when you want to quit your job, usually people tell you, hey, you're stupid, and like, so people tell you all these risks. I really have to make an assessment myself at that time. But yeah, I sort of had in mind like the risks that I, but to evaluate how likely that was, I mean, I couldn't have predicted that Australia would have done so well after the global financial crisis. So.
How much planning did you do? Like, did you think 1 month? Did you do like 2 days? So then let's go for it. I want to see you.
No, I mean, my girlfriend, she had applied for a PhD position and a scholarship, and she got that sometime in January, I think. And I went over in June. So that was, but I didn't do much preparation other than saving money and trying to write to some Australian design consultancies. None of them really replied, but.
All right, thank you very much.
Then I would say thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and hopefully see you for the next one next month.